The snow fell softly on Christmas Eve as Sarah sat on the cold stone steps of St. Margaret's Church. Her thin cotton dress offered little protection against a December wind. She had been 23 for only 2 weeks now, but tonight she felt ancient. 3 months ago she had a home, a job at the bookstore downtown, plans for the future. Then her mother's medical bills consumed everything. The landlord showed no mercy when the rent went unpaid. Sarah lost her mother in October. By November, she had lost her apartment too. Now she sat here with nothing but the clothes on her back and a small worn bag containing her mother's Bible. The church doors had closed an hour ago after the evening service. Families hurried past her into the snowy night. Some glanced her way with pity. Others looked through her, as if she were invisible. She had learned that being homeless made you a ghost in plain sight. Sarah pulled her knees closer to her chest. The hunger in her stomach had become a dull ache she barely noticed anymore. But the cold was harder to ignore. She closed her eyes and tried to remember warmth. Her mother's kitchen on Sunday mornings. The smell of cinnamon rolls baking. How simple joy felt back then. A small voice broke through her memories. Sarah opened her eyes. Standing directly in front of her was a little girl, no more than 3 years old. Blonde pigtails bounced as she tilted her head. The child wore a red velvet coat with white fur trim. Her boots were decorated with tiny silver stars. Behind her stood a man in an expensive suit, probably her father. He was looking at his phone, unaware his daughter had wandered over. The little girl studied Sarah with wide blue eyes full of concern. Then she spoke words Sarah would never forget. "I think you need a hug." Sarah's throat tightened. When was the last time anyone had touched her with kindness? When had someone last seen her as human? The little girl didn't wait for permission. She stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Sarah's neck. The embrace was clumsy and pure. Sarah felt tears sliding down her frozen cheeks. The child smelled like hot chocolate and vanilla, like childhood and safety, like everything Sarah had lost. "Thank you, sweetie," Sarah whispered. The man finally looked up from his phone. His face shifted from confusion to alarm. "Emma," he called sharply. "Get away from her right now." But Emma didn't move. She held on tighter. "Daddy, she's cold. She needs help." The man strode over quickly. His jaw was set with the kind of righteousness that made Sarah want to disappear. "I'm sorry," he said, though his tone carried no apology. He reached for his daughter. Emma pulled back and looked up at him with fierce determination. That expression belonged on a warrior, not a toddler in a velvet coat. "No, Daddy. She needs us. We have to help her." Something flickered across the man's face. Maybe he saw himself through his daughter's eyes. Maybe he remembered what it felt like to believe the world could be kind. His expression softened. He looked at Sarah properly for the first time. Really looked at her. He saw the dirt on her dress, the scratches on her bare feet, the exhaustion carved into every line of her young face. But he also saw her dignity, the way she held herself despite having nothing. "I'm Michael," he said quietly. "This is Emma." Sarah managed a small nod. "I'm Sarah." Michael crouched down beside his daughter. "You're right, Emma," he said. "She does need our help." His eyes met Sarah's. "When did you last eat?" Sarah couldn't remember. Yesterday, maybe. The days blurred together when you lived a minute by minute. Michael stood and made a decision. "Come with us. There's a diner 2 blocks over. Let's get you warm and fed. Then we'll figure out what comes next." Sarah hesitated. Pride warred with desperation. But Emma reached out and took her hand. The little girl's fingers were warm and soft. "Please come," Emma said. "It's Christmas Eve. Nobody should be alone on Christmas Eve." Something broke open inside Sarah's chest. She nodded and stood on unsteady legs. Michael noticed and offered his arm. She took it. They walked together through the falling snow, Emma between them, holding both their hands. Inside, the diner warmth wrapped around Sarah like a blanket. The smell of coffee and pie made her dizzy. Michael ordered her soup and sandwich and hot tea. Emma insisted on sharing her pancakes with extra whipped cream. As Sarah ate, Michael made phone calls. He spoke in low tones about shelters and programs, about job opportunities at his company, about spare rooms and second chances. Sarah learned he had lost his wife 2 years ago. Cancer, the same disease that took her mother. He understood loss. He understood how quickly life could crumble, how easy it was to fall through the cracks. Emma sat beside Sarah coloring on napkins. She drew pictures of houses with big windows, families holding hands, stars in the sky. Every few minutes, she would lean against Sarah's shoulder, sharing her warmth without thinking twice. By the time they finished eating, Michael had found Sarah a place at a women's shelter. Just for tonight, he said. Tomorrow, we'll sort out something more permanent. I have a friend who runs a nonprofit. She helps people get back on their feet. Job training, housing assistance, whatever you need. Sarah's tears came again. But these were different. These carried hope. Why are you doing this? She asked. Michael looked at his daughter. Emma was humming a Christmas carol, completely at peace. Because she reminded me what matters, he said. I've spent 2 years going through motions, working too much, feeling nothing. Then tonight my 3-year-old daughter showed me more courage and compassion than I've displayed in months. She saw someone in pain and didn't hesitate, didn't judge, just offered love. He smiled sadly. Maybe we both needed this. Emma looked up from her coloring. She gave Sarah another hug. See, Daddy, hugs make everything better. Michael laughed, a real laugh that carried lightness. You're absolutely right, sweetheart. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the lobby of Michael's office building. She wore a professional dress and carried a briefcase. Her hair was clean and styled. She had an apartment now, small but hers. And today was her first day as administrative assistant at Henderson Industries. Michael had kept his word about everything. The job training, the references, the second chance. But more than that, he had given her back her humanity, reminded her she mattered. Emma ran across the lobby and crashed into Sarah's legs. Miss Sarah, you're here. Sarah scooped her up. I'm here, sweet girl. And I'm not going anywhere. Michael walked over grinning. Ready for your first day. Sarah looked around at the gleaming building, at the life she was rebuilding piece by piece, at this unlikely family that had formed from a moment of pure kindness on church steps. More ready than you know, she said, because sometimes salvation comes in small packages. Sometimes it wears pigtails and a red velvet coat. Sometimes all it takes is one person seeing you, really seeing you, and offering a hug when you need it most. Emma had taught them both that lesson. On a snowy Christmas Eve, when everything changed. If this story touched your heart, please share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below telling us about a time when a small act of kindness changed your life. Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today.